So let's all sit nice and tall and close the eyes. Let's take a nice breath in, a nice breath out. And just feel that you are arriving, landing softly in this moment. And feel that the body is grounded, integrated, open, relaxed, well aligned. And feel that the mind is a little on the slow side, so there can be more space for listening, more space for inspiration. Allow the heart to be expansive so that there's more space for love. And allow the whole self to be open like a door or a window, just completely open, so that the spirit can approach you and you know it. And placing the right hand on the heart, left hand over the right. Together we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om. Take a breath in. And bowing the head to the heart and counting your blessings and being grateful for each one, no matter whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. And drawing the face to center, releasing the hands. And so today I'd like to talk about blessings and this concept of what there is to be grateful for. And oftentimes when we use the word blessing, it has to do with something that makes us happy, something that brings us joy or satisfies us in some way. Something that fills us up with inspiration. And we definitely have a way of looking at that further enhances preference and opposites. So in this world, in this physical body, we exist in a state of constant preference. I prefer heat over cold, light over dark, smiles over frowns, ups over downs. And it's okay, but it certainly makes for a limited life if I'm only ever happy, content, or feeling blessed by the things that satisfy me. And that satisfaction is almost immediate, like immediate gratification. It leaves out half of my life, or maybe even 80% or 90%, maybe 99%. It makes 99% of life unacceptable. Wow. Think about that. So, if what we really wish to do on our spiritual path, whether your spiritual path is yoga or Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, whatever it happens to be, what we really are looking for or seeking on our spiritual path is a greater sense of being. And ultimately what that means is that it's supportive if we open up to more of our life as it is and become okay with that which is uncomfortable. And we even begin to look at our preferences and discern their utility, So sure, maybe the preference of, not putting the hand into the fire because you don't want pain is a good preference. But the preference of avoiding pain in all circumstances is probably not. Because as a human and in this physical body, you're going to experience pain. In this heart and mind, you're going to experience pain. It's just part of the deal of being here. Pain is part of it. So rather than avoiding pain 100%, let's look at pain. What is pain? What are the levels of pain? What are the instigators? And come to understand more about what our habits are, what our tendencies are that lead to deep states of pain. And then work within our lifestyle to make changes that alleviate the unnecessary pain and empower us to be more present to the pain that cannot be avoided. Does that make sense? Yeah. We become so filled up with things that are not necessary. And then we don't have room to contemplate on what is. So, looking first at our preferences and understanding that we have them, and that many times, most times, those preferences are really not useful to us. Sometimes they are. Becoming wise in our discernment about what is useful and what is not useful. What is healthy and what is not healthy. And then recognizing that the ability itself to discern in that fashion is a blessing. Wow, I could look and choose in my life to some degree how and who I wish to be. I can look at my life and I can say, this isn't serving me right now. This meal plan, this preference for a particular kind of recreation, this tendency for anger, this really isn't serving me right now. And that discernment has nothing to do with anybody but me. It's never anyone else's fault. No, there's no blame. There's not even really blame of the self. There's only responsibility. There's only empowering ourselves to respond more effectively to what we encounter on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. That's a blessing. That's like a huge blessing. It's also a huge responsibility. Some people don't like that responsibility. They're like, no, it's their fault. It's all them, not me. Not my circus, not my monkeys. But have you seen the little meme that's going around of Lucille Ball with that face of hers, that beautiful, amazing, big eyes and shock on her face? And it says, this is the look when you realize that is my circus and those are my monkeys. Oh, darn. Absolutely, the responsibility, which doesn't have to be a heavy, heavy burden. It can be slightly humorous, especially when we accept the fact that we are perfectly imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect. We're going to stumble. We're going to fall. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be short or sharp. We're going to. It's going to happen. But the more that we clear away what is not necessary in our emotional reactions to things and in our preferential reactions to things, the more space we have to cultivate a more honest response. We empower our responsibility. And then we begin to see more blessings. Not that they weren't there before, but they were covered up by the unnecessary. You know, you ever lose your keys in your junk drawer? Okay, honestly, you all have a junk drawer, do you not? Yeah. Or maybe a closet, or 5. My husband was very well known for saying, there's a lot of closets in this building. It's somewhere. Now, if you were to go open that junk drawer or that junk closet right now, how much of that is not necessary? What's in there? So much of it. Probably 90% or more, you know? Some genius somewhere along the line made a game show out of this. What was it? Where the women would come with their pocketbooks. And it was like the idea that people carry the strangest things in their pocketbooks. It was Bob Barker's show, I think, right? And they would say, do you have tweezers in there? Do you have a Q-tip? Do you have like the most obscure item, like a paintbrush? You know, do you have a chisel? And if you had it, you won a prize. Remember that show? Yeah. Let's make a deal. I think it was Let's Make a Deal. And then it was like, well, I'll buy that off of you for what's behind curtain number 1, right? Or something like that.
I think he went to people in the audience.
Yeah, exactly. There were people in the audience.
Yeah.
And that's how he got them to engage. Yeah. But when you think about it, what was being carried around in that bag and what we all carry around in our pocketbooks is pretty much unnecessary. It's stuck in there just in case. Similar to that, what we carry around in our mind and in our body and in our behavior, much of it is not necessary. Much of it is just in case. Much of it is an echo from the past or a fear of the future. And when what we're carrying around with us outweighs what we perceive to be our blessings, then our blessings become scant and few and hard to see. So as spiritualists, the necessity of our work is to clear away that which is unnecessary and open a space where we can see more clearly the utility and the love. I like to look at things from a practical place and also from an ethereal place. It's both a blessing and a curse. Both sides of my brain are really active 99% of the time. So I see things very practically, very clearly, and then I make it into poetry. And I love that process because to me that's the purpose of being alive, is not to just walk along in a mundane fashion, cursing everything and being grateful for not very much. But to walk along and be like, oh my God, that bee just stung me. Right? It's like, wow, that I can have that sensation. Darn, it hurts. But there's also an amazingness to it, right? Of course, as long as you're not allergic. Or walking along and seeing the unintentional plantings, what we call weeds, together with the things we've wanted to have there, and to recognize they cohabitate so beautifully, don't they? What do you all love about this area? Driving through these roads and seeing those little blue flowers coming up and those purple flowers and those white flowers. They're all weeds, what we call weeds, right? But they are the charm of the countryside, are they not? Don't put them in my garden, though. No, do put them in my garden. I don't mind them at all. But most people would say, yeah, they're fine over there. But when they crop up in their own yard, then suddenly the dandelion is a destructive demon that must be annihilated. And it's like, do you know the dandelion is medicine? Do you know the dandelion is a blessing? It's a pollinator. It invites the bees. It's beautiful. It's the yellow of the sun. We didn't have them this year so much. But last year, the whole back field was nothing but dandelions. We had these amazing pictures. It was a sea of yellow. And all the ashramites, the interns and students out there just sitting there, picking some of them mindfully so that one of our neighbors who makes tincture could do her thing and make her dandelion wine. We don't use pesticides here, so they're safe to use. But the preference and the adherence to preference, the strong preference, stops you from seeing the blessing, stops you from recognizing and from having the space to engage in the blessing, and instead causes us to engage in trying to make this world what we really kind of want it to be. Get rid of those things that are uncomfortable and invite in more of what we really like. But then suddenly we don't like what we like anymore, and the blessing becomes a curse, or so we think. So better to do the work of a lifestyle that is more open and accepting of the uncomfortable as well as the comfortable. Does that make sense? Yeah. Then we can begin to see like Ganesha. So this is Ganesha. Jai Ganesha. It's Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity. He's not another God. He is part of the one. There's not multiple gods in yoga or in Hinduism or in any of these related traditions. There's only one. And just like you and me, that one has a lot of differences in its personality, you know. Sometimes it's that we're focusing on the consciousness of it, which is Shiva. Sometimes it's that we're focusing on the straightforwardness and the courageousness of it, which is Durga. Sometimes we're focusing on the love of it, which is Krishna. Sometimes the joy, which is Radha. You know, what do you call your joyful self? What do you call your depressed self? What do you call your angry self? They're different facets of your personality. And that's what these are, different facets of the one personality. Ganesha is the enjoyer of life and the remover of obstacles, because he gets it. He's like, this is not an obstacle, just dance with it a little bit. It'll resolve into something else any moment now. You know, this is not an obstacle, just do what you must do and move forward. Don't become stuck here. And he's an elephant-headed being. He's got a very robust body. It would be very easy for him to get stuck. But he doesn't. He dances so beautifully with everything that comes to him. There's a beautiful story of, at this point in time, there was another elephant-headed being also. He was much different than Ganesha, though. Ganesha was very much loved by all the people, all the beings of the earth. They truly, truly loved him. They loved his grateful heart and his soul of happiness. And this other being, which looked very similar to Ganesh, was really jealous, very, very envious of him, and would do things to try to trip him up all the time and show people what a jerk Ganesha really was and that he was really the great one. And finally, one day, he lets his anger overcome him. And he goes to Mount Kailash, which is where Ganesha lives, with his parents, Shiva and Shakti, or Shiva and Parvati. And he calls Ganesha out. He's like, "You jerk! Come out here. I'm going to knock you out and show everybody once and for all what a weakling you are, what a fake and fraud you are." Ganesha's in the garden. You know, he's picking the fruit, playing with the butterflies, dancing, doing his thing. He's like, I don't have time for that. Such silliness. Why should I be called into something that is just based in such childishness? Why should any of us be called into something that is based in childish behavior and immaturity? So he just goes about it, his thing. And as he's just not paying attention to this person's anger, this person gets louder and louder and louder. And he's screaming. And Shiva is Ganesha's father. And he's a great, great meditator. Consciousness is a meditation. Shiva is consciousness, flowing. And this being disrupts Shiva out of his meditation. And when Shiva's embodied, he also had a little anger challenge with anger. Gets a little angry sometimes. He got angry. And he bellows out, "Ganesh, are you going to deal with this or should I?" And Shiva is known for having some pretty straightforward anger where he reacts. And one time he reacted, his third eye became ablaze with a ray of energy that burned the Lord of Love to the ground. Of course, he restored him later, but, you know. So Ganesha thought to himself, oh, better I take care of this than my father, you know. More compassionate that way. So he steps out from the orchard and he looks at this other being. And the being says, "There you are. I'm going to teach you a lesson now. I'm going to get you. I'm going to knock you out." He goes to throw a punch. Ganesha very rapidly knocks him unconscious and then goes back to his business. He doesn't keep kicking him. He doesn't keep punching him while he's down. He doesn't start calling him names. He doesn't get all full of his own success. "Oh, I beat you. You see, I taught you." None of these things. He just goes back to the enjoyment. He holds no grudge. The other being comes too. and bows at Ganesha's feet and says, please be my guru, be my teacher. Teach me how to do what you just did, because then other people will respect me. They'll think I'm more like you. They'll see me in a light of honor and distinguished respect. Ganesha looked at him, maybe a little perplexed. And he's like, I don't know, what would you do with it? Oh, well, if I could have that, if I could move at that speed, I could do what you just did to me, to those who mock me, to those who don't like me, to those who threaten me. Ganesha looked at him. And on one level, maybe understood, that, there's a teaching moment here. There's a teaching moment about humility. And he said, well, I'll agree on a few conditions. The first is that people will get confused if they see two of us with these elephant heads. So let's transform you into a form that is more conducive to speed. And then, as my student, as my devotee, you'll need to carry me everywhere I go. Never again should my foot touch the ground, except when I'm dancing. And he was so happy that Ganesha was agreeing that he said, absolutely yes. Whatever you say, I will abide by 100%. Let's do it. So, Ganesha transformed him into a mouse and called him Mushika, because a mouse is very fast. You ever try to chase one? And that little mouse was able to carry Ganesha everywhere he went, became his vehicle. And you can see the little mouse is right there, underfoot, right in the front. At first, the little mouse was like, oh my God, I can't carry you. Now I'm a mouse, and you're an elephant. You'll crush me. And Ganesha said, don't fear. Nothing will come your way that you can't carry. You just need to have faith that you can. And don't give in to fear. Be humble, accepting. So the mouse geared himself up, and Ganesha put his toe on his back. And the mouse was like, oh my gosh, I'm so much stronger than I thought I was. Out of love and reverence for you, I can carry you wherever you need to go. And from that day forward, they were pretty much inseparable. So the blessing there's many blessings there. Had it not been for that really uncomfortable situation, this person would not have come to a place of humble understanding of their own inner strength and the understanding that the outside form is not what makes the strength. Whether you're an elephant or a mouse is not what matters. What matters is the intention that you bring to the moment. And the blessing in that uncomfortable situation is the realization of that truth. That each and every one of us appear in this life exactly as we are meant to be, with the skill set that we are meant to have, and the ability to build more skill, overcoming our preferences, particularly the ones that are not serving our awakening. And many of you have heard me say time and time again, this is not an easy path. Spirituality is not meant to be easy. There's these beautiful, beautiful statues of the sleeping Buddha. He's reclined on his side. He looks so darn comfortable, right? He seems to be napping all the time. What that statue doesn't tell you is what it took to get to that point. So we look at that and we say, oh my God, spirituality must be all about being comfortable. It's like, no. That might be the end result, but that is not the path. The path is learning how to be comfortable And that is mighty uncomfortable. Because that means that each and every one of us, there is a necessity for us to come face to face with that which we do not like, with that which makes us uncomfortable, with that which might even bring forward feelings of hate and resentment, and to learn how to love it as a blessing anyway. It doesn't mean that you're a doormat. It doesn't mean that you take the brunt of other people's BS. It doesn't mean that you accept the poor behavior of others. That's not what it means. It's not about anybody else. It's not about anyone else. It's about you and your ability to respond versus react. Your ability to stand on your own 2 feet and accept responsibility and cultivate responsibility and embrace responsibility instead of its alternative. And what is responsibility? The ability to respond rather than react. The ability to recognize, well, in this situation, the most compassionate thing for me to do would be this: step away or get involved. But how do you get involved? It's always another question. It always leads to another inquiry. So if the choice is to get involved, then with what quality? What quality of involvement? Bold, boisterous, egotistical, I'm here to save the day equality, involvement? Or humble, what can I do in order to be one of the pillars or part of one of the pillars to hold this temple up? This temple of humanity, this temple of compassion, this temple of awakening, this temple of service, this temple of goodness, this temple of God and Goddess. What can I do? What can I offer? What can I provide? Not, I've got the thing for you. No. What's needed? What is needed? And then the ability to even ask that question is such a blessing. It's such a blessing. Oftentimes we put ourselves into a situation where we step forward into a light that we're not quite prepared for. We step forward into a role that we're not quite prepared for. And then we're full of fear that we'll fail. We're full of fear of failure. And that fear of failure diminishes the light of blessings. So if we are going to step into a role that we are not quite prepared for, then step into that role openly and honestly. I'm willing to do this work. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to do the work. And then allow others to support the work. Allow others to shine alongside with you. Let everyone thrive. And learn along the way, humbly and with great purpose. Allow everyone to thrive. And allow yourself to grow. People always come to me and say, and they really do pretty much always come to me and say, oh my God, Sudha, I don't believe that you did all this. I'm like, I didn't do all this. I just opened the door, and amazing people came forward and said, what can we do to support this? I said, I've got a job for you. Maybe 10. Right, Michelle? Right, Gallery? Yeah. Maybe 10? Yeah. And people just come, and then as a community it happens. As a community. If I was doing all this by myself, it'd be a pretty lonely ride. Pretty overwhelming ride, too. And many parts of it would fail. Because we can't all do everything. It's just not possible. We need to surround ourselves with people who see and understand that. And then we work together to elevate each other, the entirety of the community and beyond. What a blessing it is to not be able to do everything. Right? What a blessing to be able to say, I cannot and I will not do everything. Let's do these things together. Let's each have our role, our responsibility, our learning moment. Let's each have the opportunity to grow and thrive, shine. So the more that we step into the alignment, physically, mentally, emotionally, the more clearly we see our blessings. And some people might say, well, but it's difficult for me to align physically. See, that's okay. There's not one alignment for everybody. There's not like, it's not a cookie cutter practice. It's not like everybody line up like the military. I want to see all heads in a row, all shoulders in a row, all hips in a row, all feet in a row. No. What's your alignment? What's your health? What's your expression of the most freedom you can bring forward in this moment? Your personal, authentic expression of alignment. That's what we're looking for. Not cookie cutter. Cookie cutter is completely inauthentic. It is not authentic. Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, "'Tis better to do your own work and fail miserably than to try to do the work of another and shine brightly." Because that's a false shining. It's not you. It's not your work. What's your work? You show up to that in the most beautiful, whole, complete way possible. Invest yourself in your own blessings. Even if those blessings include shoulders that are hiked up to here. You know where the blessing is there? The feeling of letting them come back down again. Such a blessing in that moment to feel relief. And then such a blessing to understand that you can feel relief. That you can. So none of this comparison, I want to be like you. No. You want to be you. In your light, in your blessings, in your life, in your path. And then we walk together side by side. Inspiration is fine, absolutely. Let people inspire you completely. Yes. But figure out what part of that inspiration is actually going to empower you to recognize more of your blessings and which part of that inspiration is not, is more of an escape. And then, if you're going to have preference, as Swami Satchidananda said, if you're going to have preference, if you're going to grasp at anything, grasp at peace. Grasp at inner peace. Grasp at knowing thyself. Don't grasp at all your stuff. Because the other stuff will not open you up to a spaciousness that is capable of recognizing the blessings of this life and this path. Does that make sense? Yeah. Doing good? Mm-hmm. Any thoughts or reflections at this point? Yes?
I just had one about when you were talking about responsibility versus reactivity, and it made me just think, and you were talking about thriving. Thriving lives within responsibility. Just the reaction is us trying to survive. And so to welcome that responsibility, encourage the discomfort, because that's where connection comes in, with self and with others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they're still learning so much about the brain. But we know that, or we think, that there's these two parts of the brain, and there are others, but I'm just going to talk about the two. The lizard brain and the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is responsible for logic and inspiration, and the lizard brain is responsible for survival. And if we are thinking from what they call the lizard brain or the primal brain, then there's not enough energy for inspiration. The more we exist within the function of the nervous system called fight or flight, the more we're existing in that primal brain, the more energy we're investing there. And if you have $100 and you invest $100 into investment portfolio A, then how much do you have left to invest in investment portfolio B? Nothing, except the return from investment A. But the fight or flight response in the nervous system takes $100 a second of energy. So there is no return. There's only expenditure. It's a losing game. And it's also a game, scientifically speaking, that shortens the telomeres that protect your DNA, which shortens your life because it ages you prematurely and depletes your immune system and makes you susceptible at an earlier age to things like arthritis and heart attacks and cancer. So stop thinking from the primal brain. Have a relaxation practice in place every day. Relaxation is your greatest blessing. Stop treating it like a curse. Oh, I don't want to lay down and rest. I feel like I'm not doing anything. Oh, you're doing something all right. You're saving your own life. You know, you're opening your own heart. You're empowering your own self. It's pretty much worth it, right? 15 minutes, half hour, ideally 1 hour. It's not sleeping, it's relaxation. It's yoga nidra, sitting there and purposefully relaxing every part of the body and being mindful and present to what is without reacting to anything at all. Phone rings, leave it alone. Dog barks, so what? Cat comes up and headbutts you, it's okay. It happens, right? Like, I have 2 cats and a dog. There is no peace. The moment you sit, they jump on you. And they're like, love me now. Boom. They say cats headbutt you because they trust you. I think they just want to see how irritated they can make you in meditation. Because then when you go to them and are like, oh, come here, headbutt me, they're like, no. It's so true. There are these little things that got the biggest attitude. Man. I lost where I was now. Oh, nervous system, okay. Yeah, so that, that 1 hour a day of mindfulness is an investment. So you put your $100 there, and then it comes back to you as 200, 500, 1,000. And then you take that payback and you go feed the hungry. You go support the people who need your support. And then you come back and do more meditation, more relaxation. And the blessing is knowing where to invest your energy so that there is a payback. And the payback is for you, yes, but it's also not for you. The payback of our mindfulness practices, of our yoga and our Tai Chi and our meditation, our scriptural study and our prayer, whatever it happens to be for you, the payback is that you are a less violent person walking through the world. Fewer people have to be afraid of you. Think about that for a moment. Honest assessment to yourself silently. How many people right now are afraid of you? They don't want to see you. They don't want to encounter you. They don't want to face you. They don't want conflict with you. They're afraid of arguing with you. They don't want to tell you no. Every single person in this room probably has at least one handful, maybe several handfuls. By committing yourself to a daily practice of mindfulness that is based in yoga, what we call ahimsa, non-harming, compassion also, you become a less violent person walking through the world. And then other people get to count their blessings more. Because instead of concerning themselves with you and your reactions, they have more space and freedom now to count their own blessings, of which maybe you'll be one, instead of a curse. That's such a gift to give people, to allow people to feel free in your presence. Thich Nhat Hanh said it so beautifully. He said, love everyone so deeply and completely that they are absolutely free in your presence. Yep. And if you don't like what you're seeing, or if you use your skills of discernment, your blessings of discernment, to see that something is happening that you're not comfortable with or not in agreement with, then just remove yourself from the situation. This is not what I wish to invest in. I'll take my investment over here. And you don't say, hey, you, what you're doing, you're just a bad person. I'm not investing anything in you. You go to hell. I'm going to go over here. These people are good. No, that's harm. You take responsibility for yourself and say, I recognize myself here, and I'm going to make a different choice for myself. Yeah. Any other questions or reflections?
And then, like Sudha says, it's not my cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. Or my cup of coffee. Yeah. It's not my cup of tea. But it doesn't mean I haven't been there before. And it doesn't mean I won't be there again. It just means that in this moment, I'm choosing peppermint instead of oolong. Yeah. And that's why it's so really important not to curse people. Not to be like, condemn people for their decisions. Because you may find yourself there again. And wouldn't it be nice if when you did, there wasn't someone cursing you? Yeah. So this idea of blessings, how would you express what is a blessing in your life? The people you love, the people who love you, the things that make you happy, the things that challenge you, the things that downright cause you to, in a moment, feel weak and incapable. Would you include that? I would suggest that might be more important than the other ones. Because in those moments where we feel weak and incapable, that's the fertile ground for growth and acceptance. Can I be here and accept that I don't have all the answers? Can I be here and simply accept that I'm not the most important one in the room? Can I be here and accept that I have been mistaken? I've even maybe been wrong. Can I be here and accept that my choices have led me to this, and that maybe I can learn and make better choices? You're not guaranteed of the outcome, so just get that right out of your head. Even if you make stellar choices, the outcome is not up to you. But the process is, and the path that you walk and how you walk it is. So can those choices be made in such a way that you walk your path knowingly and not with ignorance? Can we see all those difficult moments as well as the really nice ones as our blessings, as an opportunity to grow and know and be and accept and surrender? And some people have asked, they've said, that sounds like, I don't know. I like being involved. I like having a say. I feel like that would just be like me stepping back from life and not being involved. And I say, well, on one level, maybe. But on another level, what you're stepping back for is so that you can be more profoundly involved instead of, unnecessarily involved. Instead of a poor investment of your time, your energy, and your being. Now you can be profoundly involved. You can be present and thrive instead of there and fighting for every scrap of acknowledgement. Questions or comments?
What you just said. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Shita.
I was going to say what you just said reminds me of Rumi's poem, The Guest House, because it is basically about everything's a blessing. Life is a blessing, and everything involved in life is a blessing, and that's like one of my favorite poems because it just reminds us of that.
Absolutely. And that poem is so wonderful, right? Yeah. It's like, paraphrasing greatly, there's only one Rumi. Whatever comes to your door, be it a thief at night or something else,
Right.
Open the door and welcome them. Let them in. Make them feel at home. Treat them with great compassion and love. Even if they are thieves in the night who have come to sweep your house clean of everything, leave the door open. Because maybe, perhaps, they're clearing you out for some greater delight. So that curse has now become a blessing. I love that poem. Gives me goosebumps every time, even when I don't remember the whole thing.
What's the name of it again?
The Guest House.
Ooh, thank you so much for saying
That you are the guest house.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. And what did you want to say?
I don't even know. Well, I guess there were a lot of thoughts that came up, but one was, I know the one church that I grew up in, the things you were saying, like their motto was, make gentle a bruised world. That was their purpose. That's what they made, like their vision.
Wow.
Yeah. It would just like fit perfect, like with what you're saying. To just every time you encounter a thief in the night, because probably they're bruised, and how can we make that gentle?
Yeah.
Other thought I had was, I'm a probation officer full time, and I had a client. I work mostly with serious mental illness and intellectual developmental disabilities, and I had a lady that most of my clients are in Social Security, so they don't have a lot of money, and some of them are very vulnerable to other people preying upon them, and then they end up in the criminal justice system. And I had this lady that was of limited intellectual ability and had been taken advantage of and ended up on my caseload. And she said the most profound thing, and it was so simple. And it comes back to blessings. She said, I'm just so thankful that I can be thankful.
Yeah. Is that beautiful? Mm-hmm. Someone who's been what we might call in the West victimized still has a heart of gratitude. Yeah. And we would look at her and, yes, maybe label her as having a limited intellectual ability. Ooh, but what a heart.
She was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, how do we measure people? How do we measure people? Yeah, it's amazing.
Such wise words came out of someone who's not so smart, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was having such a bad day, so in my own ego, so in my own head. And she spoke truer words of wisdom and opened up, I wrote it down. I remember it's like, that's so good. I love that quote. I'm going to quote you. And she was like so, thrilled. I probably have, my clients are amazing. A lot of them. So wise.
Yeah, absolutely. So many blessings. People approaching you, God approaching you, constantly reminding you. Everything is God approaching you. Everything, without exception. That's the thing I keep reminding myself of. When I look at the sky, I see the divine. When I see the birds and the butterflies, it's the divine. When I see the bee, the spider, it's the divine. Certainly the bee and the spider may be a little more rattling than the bird and the butterfly. That's a good proving ground for the spirituality stuff. Treating both with equanimity and seeing the divine equally in both. Every person who approaches, every person who rescinds, every person who walks away, everything. Everything is the divine asking you for relationship. What relationship are you holding to that? Yeah. And so when you treat your clients with kindness, your wards with kindness, you're having that relationship. And people say, well, that might not be right to say that God is like, a probation person, approaching you. It's like, well, wait a minute. Jesus Christ sat with thieves, okay? He didn't sit with the presidents and the highfalutin ones. He sat with the common people. And then the people who are shunned from society. That's who he sat with. He sat with the hungry, with the suffering, Can we do the same thing with the same amount of grace? Good question.
That's what I always loved about the recovery program. It really teaches you that.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Any other thoughts or reflections for today? No? Are we good? Okay. Now that we have all the answers, we know exactly how to walk this path. Let's commit to doing so. So close the eyes. And commit to just one step at a time. Don't go all the way all at once. It won't work. Instead, take one mindful step at a time. Be mindful of one moment at a time. Deepen your awareness and your knowledge one thought at a time. Allow yourself to become more responsible one circumstance at a time. And never forget that you're not alone. That you're walking this path with a community, some of which are like-minded, some of which are not, but all of which are being guided and supported by divinity, by God, by Goddess, by that one. Placing the right hand on the heart, left hand over the right. And together we'll chant 3 ohms. Take a nice breath in. Bowing the head to the heart, may we all know our blessings. May we recognize blessings in every moment, in every circumstance, in everything, everyone. And draw the face to center. Namaste.
Namaste.
So good to sit with each and every one of you today. And so they're still serving brunch until 1 o'clock. And for our retreat attendees, your retreat is now concluded. So feel free to have some lunch. Stay around if you'd like to do a little more journaling in peace and quiet. You can continue with your exercises as you wish to. And let me know how you're doing with everything. Good. Wonderful. Thank you all. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.